Welcome back to season 3 of the Triggered AF podcast. Look at us being consistent. Look at us being consistent, okay? And doing the thing.
Listen, you know what? One of the hardest part about building anything is consistency.
Yes. In life, in everything, in life, in relationships, in Legos, everything. You need to be consistent.
Listen, because it's that consistency, that willingness to show up, no matter how you're feeling, no matter what is going on, that willingness to show up, it changes shit. And this 3rd season, all the changes. I'm so excited.
I wish I could drop like some bombs, do like on the radio, like
yes.
bombs or something. I need more excitement, but that's how I feel on the inside. I wish I could like drop some bombs. We need to get some like sound things that we could drop for people.
Some sound effects.
So excited for season 3. We have so much happening, y'all. We launched a merch for y'all. Y'all not ready. We got some Triggered AF merch coming. We have awesome guests. I mean, we've had great guests, but we are having more great guests. And I'm just really excited to have these dynamic conversations with new people. Of course, we're going to be tackling those uncomfortable subjects. And we just want to thank you guys for riding with us this long, but fasten your seatbelts because season 3, we're taking it to another level. So
listen, it's about to get real bumpy in this motherfucker. Like the very, very real conversations around not only around mean girls, around sex workers, around, the N-word. We're going to be having conversations around owning your own sexual experience. We are going to be trying out some products for y'all.
Yep.
Like we're going deep. We're going to be tackling colorism and how it shows up, not only in the workspace, but also in like our families. So we talking myths about men, like we are going deep. And the guests that we are bringing on for this season, listen, don't get us wrong. Every guest we've had has been dope as fuck.
Yeah.
These next set of guests, if you are not following us on social media at Triggered AF PC, that's P as in Peter, C as in cat, get there. Get there.
Yeah.
If you are not subscribed on YouTube, go do that. You trust me, you want to see the behind the scenes of all the things because we be lit. You want to get on over there too. And then if you have not subscribed on our website, get there too, because we will have some special things for those who are subscribed on our website. You can easily go to triggeredafpodcast.com. Get all the things. You want to be all up in the mix because it's getting real spicy.
Yes. And if you're new here, go back and listen to seasons 1 and 2 on all the places where podcasts are casted. On season 2, you can watch us on YouTube. So that way you could just get a feel for us and catch up and just see what we've already talked about so that you can be, because we refer a lot to our past episodes. So that way you can know what we're talking about.
You want to be all up in the mix. Trust me on it, because this season we've been working on triggers. We've been identifying them, but this season we hold tackling them. Especially like we did the reparenting episode. We started it with Tony Jones, who, if you do not know her, affirmation music, that episode is so good. We're going to be talking this season about reparenting while you're parenting, figuring out how to heal yourself while you're also raising another human, trying not to fuck them up. It's going there completely and totally. And I cannot wait for y'all to tap all the way in. We drop a new episode every week. Ain't no breaks. So make sure you hop in during this season. Share it with a friend, because it doesn't work if you're the only person who's healed in your circle. Because I promise you, yes, one bad apple does spoil the whole bunch. So tap in, share it with the friends, send it to your mama, send it to them triggering ass aunties who triggered the fuck out of you. Send it to them. It's okay. to say this is for a friend. I'm sending this to you as a friend, because I love you. I want you to stop triggering me. So here, listen to this.
Well, speaking about aunties and things like that, today we're actually talking about the Mean Girl movement.
Ooh, and it's a whole ass movement.
It's a whole movement. I've talked about it in the past of my former life as a mean girl, and when I was in like high school and middle school and maybe my first year of college or so. But then I was reformed and realized that a lot of the behavior comes from different traumas and just a skewed way of looking at the world. It's definitely a protective mechanism, and we'll talk about all that. But there was a recent, and we don't do too much about like current events, but this one was just so applicable to this episode that we wanted to talk about it, because it was one of those things that I felt like came to light that has been like bubbling under the surface of a lot of these female empowerment, woman empowerment type of narratives. So I was just really not happy because it wasn't a good situation, but I was excited in a sense for this topic, for it to kind of come out this way so that we could be real with what's actually happening. There was a situation with Karen Civil and Jessie Wu. And I don't know if you guys are familiar, but there was just kind of an accusation of, was it like blackmailing in a sense? Like,
a little bit.
Yeah, like some kind of a blackmailing situation where Karen Civil was blackmailing or accused of blackmailing Jessie Wu, and said that she had like footage of her doing, I guess, something that she didn't want people to know that she was doing, and that she was going to spread it all over the industry to try to destroy her. And, Karen Civil is known as this like leader of women, and in the Black community especially, she is very, very popular. She works with all kinds of people. You see her on all kind of panels and all the things. And they're both Haitian. So, that for me was a little bit disappointing that it was two women from the Haitian culture, the same culture, that were having this kind of a battle royale via social media. But it was interesting to kind of see how everything unfolded. And then all these things started coming out about Karen Civil from other people. Jason Lee started talking about his experience with her. Other people started bringing up stuff. When you went to the comments, everybody was like, oh yeah, she did this, she did that. She scammed this person out of $20,000. And I was just like, well, damn.
Allegedly. Well, we got to make sure we say allegedly.
Allegedly. I'm just saying this is what the peoples was saying. This is what the peoples were saying. And we're not spreading gossip. This is just what was happening. And I thought it was applicable to this episode because it's something that I have been, and Alechia especially, because she does so many speaking engagements, we've been so aware of this kind of unspoken meanness behind a lot of these female empowerment conferences and panels and all the things. So I was, it was good to kind of see it exposed. And like now the conversation is happening around the fact that it's not what it seems. And a lot of these women that are talking about female empowerment are mean girls.
Absolutely. For me, the biggest thing for me has always been, what you do in the dark eventually does come to light, especially if there's no changed behavior.
Yes.
Like, I am never going to be the person who is like, oh, they've committed a sin, let's crucify them, put them up on the cross and burn them at the stake. That's never my thing, because every single person should be given the grace and opportunity to grow and change. The issues and the problems come when you refuse to grow and change. For me, I don't believe in empowerment. If you tell me you have a female empowerment platform, for me, I become a little leery and I become a little bit afraid.
Okay.
Primarily because most folks who have a female, especially, and I can only speak from my perspective, and I won't say most because that's a generalization, many of the folks who have a female empowerment only, where they're focused primarily on empowerment, not equipping them for success, not positioning, not opportunities, but only female empowerment, where it's just pretty words that make you feel really great. You dress up and go be around a bunch of other women and smile and take pretty Instagram worthy pictures. It's usually fake as fuck.
Okay.
It's usually very fake. It's usually super surfacey, and the creators are usually nasty as hell. And dealing with them, working with them, makes you want to commit sins that you can possibly be sent to jail for. You know,
That's a sin.
I mean, that's what it is. It comes from this, at least in my experience, and again, I can only speak about what I have experienced. It usually comes from this place of intense what's the word I'm looking for? Self-hatred. This intense insecurity, this intense and high level inadequate place. I am not, it's not that I don't believe in what do they call it? It's imposter syndrome. It's not that I don't believe in imposter syndrome, but I do feel as though that many times, or sometimes, I won't say many, and I'll stop saying many, but sometimes folks who are leaders in the female empowerment space, that they feel as though they're an imposter, so that in order to, wield their power, they have to put down others. And so for me, I've always been super leery of it. And we don't have to just say, oh, this has been our experience. We've seen it play out beyond just the Karen Civil situation. The CEO and founder of The Wing, Audrey Gelman, she literally created and built an entire empire centered around the empowerment of women. And instead of it being empowering for women, it was a toxic environment. Why? Because you have women who have not yet done their own self-work, who have not yet figured out how to love and care for them so well that you're not trying to break down and crush another. That for me is where the problem comes in.
Absolutely. We even saw that with Ellen DeGeneres, with everything coming out about that show. I mean, her show's been around for 20 years. And I had actually known someone who worked closely with her as a business partner. And that person said to me, I want to say maybe 3 years ago, before all this came out, 2-3 years ago, they were like, she's not nice. That's what the person said to me, someone that claims to know her well. And I was like, get out of here. She is the best. She is the kind, whatever, her kind movement and all the things that she does about being kind and giving back and being a nice person. And they were just like, yeah, that's all bullshit. And I was like, that's not my Ellen.
And again, these are alleged. Yeah.
Allegedly. Someone is saying this, and I was just so floored, and I didn't believe it. I was like, nah, maybe that was just your experience, because I'm really big on trying to get to know someone for myself. I'm not the person where you can just tell me something about somebody and I'm just like, oh, now I don't like them because you said that. Like I'm a touch the stove kind of a person in lots of ways.
Me too.
You could tell me the stove is hot and I'm like, but let me see. Let me see if it's hot for me. Because
it might just be hot for you. It might not be hot for me. So let me try it out. See what
let me touch the stove. I will be cautious. I will move in a way. Yeah. And that's how I am with people. Even if I've heard, negative things about them, I'll still proceed with caution,
Yeah. Because maybe it changed. Because change.
You never know. Or maybe that was just what you brought out of them.
Yeah, because that's true too.
That's how your energies kind of mixed together and created a concoction of meanness for whatever reason. So I know it's easy to always kind of blame the other person, but we do have to oftentimes take more responsibility, and we'll kind of we'll flesh that out later, but take more responsibility for the reactions we elicit from other people based on our behavior. It's like, oh, she was a bitch, but you were rude, or you disrespected their time, or you know what I'm saying? Like there's so much more to it.
Or you got too close. Like,
there's so many reasons.
Yeah, because too many people think that, oh, because we're cool on Instagram, it means when I see you in real life, I get to hug you, I get to touch you, I get to,
No.
Joke with you in certain ways. We're not that cool yet. Like, to me, that's
but
not
Instagram blurs those lines really like a lot. Like Instagram makes it seem like that is the norm. So anyways, I was saying that I didn't believe the person because of my belief system when it comes to what people say about other people. And then when everything started coming out in the media about the allegations against the toxic work environment on the show, the people that have left in the past that were coming back, and, I was just like, wow, it's really unfortunate. Especially when these things happen around women, because, when it comes to things that involve women, if there's a strong woman, a leader woman, a boss woman, she's automatically a bitch. Automatically. And I loved Ellen because I felt like that was not the approach. And I always felt like, wow, she takes such a warm, kind approach to, her bossness. And I really liked that. I thought it was such a cool way to go about it. And so when those things came out, I was super disappointed because it's kind of like expected, unfortunately. Yeah. That if a woman is in charge of something, then she's going to be mean and she's going to be bitchy and she's going to put other women down and things like that. And that for me, even with Karen Civil, like just hearing things about her, whether or not they're true, we don't know. But just even hearing it, it's disappointing because you want to always believe that women in leadership positions are always really trying to, help women in every way that they can, especially because of the disadvantages, especially Black women are put at. So to have another Black woman be a part of any kind of system that puts Black women any further back, to me, is heartbreaking.
Yeah. And I think too, a lot of times what happens is, and we all have to and I don't like always going back in the past, but here's the thing. If you don't study your history, you're destined to repeat it.
Hello.
So you do have to look at our mothers. There was so much trauma and infighting. You kind of had to be cutthroat back then. You just,
absolutely.
And it sucks to say, well, this is just what it was, is how it was, is what it is. But that's what it was. There was only one seat at the table. There was only one spot. You were the token, at least for our community. Now, for other communities, it was, if you weren't number one, you were number two, and number two doesn't get trophies. Back in the day, there were no participation awards.
Trophies were not a thing.
It's not a thing. There were no participation trophies and awards. So I can absolutely understand the energy, right, that older generations had in regards to being a mean girl, forcing people to prove themselves that you were worthy of a friendship or of, an honor. I get it. I'm not going to play pretend like, oh, I didn't get it. I do understand it. However, a wise person pays very close attention to how things are moving, how things are transforming, and what is happening to ensure that they are coming into alignment with what those changes are. And an even more astute person is questioning, does this make sense? Do I have to be mean? Do I have to be nasty? And it brings me back to my experience when I was in college and I wanted to pledge a particular sorority. Now, I had wanted to be a part of this sorority since I was in high school, like freshman year. It is what I wanted. I was super excited about it. I have always believed in female friendships. I have always had great friendships. My girlfriends from college are still my friends to this day. Dani, you and I met in college. I'm a hold 'em type of woman when it comes to my girl friendship. Now, men, y'all, I'm working on it. I was a runner. I was a track star. I'm working on learning how to stay.
You're definitely a girl's girl when it comes to friendships.
I'm a girl's girl.
For sure.
Like, I love us. We are just so amazing to me.
Yeah, you're definitely that.
I love women. Like, from my soul, I love women because I just feel we're so dope and there's so much possibility that we have in us. So I just knew once I got to college, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll join this sorority. I'll have an even deeper sisterhood. And I came in contact with the girls and they were so nasty, like disgustingly nasty. Like,
why do I have the same story though?
And we went to the same college, so I know.
I think we were, just to not put any specific sororities on blast, even though I secretly want to, but I won't.
Because we don't want to be mean girls.
We don't want to be mean girls.
We don't. That's not the energy.
But I think we wanted to actually pledge the same sorority, just knowing our conversations. I was the same way since high school. I had originally wanted to go to an HBCU, so I was already looking into those things. I wanted to go to Emory and all these places, and that just didn't work out for personal reasons. And I ended up went to the same college, and I was so excited my freshman year. I was just like, oh man, I'm going to join this sorority. I'm going to be this person. I'm going to have this sisterhood and all the benefits that do come from sororities, which can be really great. And
they're vast. Yes.
And I have a specific story. I went to, so I had made it known, because you have to make it known that you're interested, right?
Gotta be clear. You gotta make a choice.
You gotta be clear. And a friend and I had another friend who was also wanting to become a part of the same sorority. And we went to a party at like a frat house, like a frat party. And at the party, the girls that were already members of the sorority, I don't know, you can call them like the higher ups, because that was the energy. The old heads, as they call them, they were at this party. And my friend was a little bit more kind of gung-ho about the whole situation. So she was like, oh, they said that if we are really serious, we need to go around and introduce ourselves to each one of the members. And I was like, what? Why? Like, why here? And it just felt like somebody was trying to sun me. Like, I felt like somebody was kind of like, and the way my mean girl is set up, that was just not going to work for me personally. Because nobody that, see, I had a moment where the mean girl was about to say something. I had to reel her back in and muzzle that bitch. But for me, I just felt like I didn't understand why that was the approach. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I was so excited. I was going through my own transformation of getting out of high school and wanting to be a better person and starting my own spiritual journey and things like that. But again, I was a freshman in college, so I was still very, very far away from where I am now. And I just remember the feeling. Anyways, long story short, my friend ends up going to around to introduce herself to the other girls. And she goes on to start the whole pledging process. And at some point in the process, she comes to me and she goes, oh, they said that we can't be friends anymore because, because they said that like my personality, I guess, was like overshadowing hers, and they needed to kind of see who she was outside of me. So she told me that she couldn't be seen with me on campus, as if we were like fucking, and I was a side bitch. Like, it was I was like, am I a side bitch right now? Is this what side bitch is here? That's what she said to me with a straight face. This is after the party. And she's like, yeah, like we can't really be seen together on campus, but I'll still come with you to your mom's house on Sundays, and we can always hang out off campus. And at the time we were, and I think at the time we were roommates. This may be like closer to the second year of college, but we are roommates and everything. And sis
she made you a fat bitch.
In order for her to pledge, she had to disassociate herself with me. And I remember being completely heartbroken because we were really great friends. And I felt like, what organization would try to break apart a friendship that was a genuine friendship that nobody paid for?
Ooh.
and try to make friends not be friends in order to get something else. Like, I feel like that is like the epitome of not being a female empowerment. So for me, that was it for me. And that was enough for me to realize that maybe that specific chapter was not for me. And I leave it at that. You thought my mean girl was about to come out. She was like,
listen, I saw her, but you did good. You told her, you said, calm down, sis. I don't need you to protect me right now. Because I really do feel like at the core of every mean girl is a scared girl.
Absolutely.
At the core of every mean girl is a scared girl, a girl who is afraid that she won't be accepted, is a girl who is afraid that someone will take her seemingly power away.
Yes.
It's a girl. And when I say girl, I do mean women too, because be clear. It's at the heart of every mean girl, of every mean woman is truly a girl or a woman who has no clue who she is. And she's trying to grab hold to the images of what is felt or is believed to be what power looks like.
Absolutely. And also to add to that, I also believe that every mean girl at the heart of that is a little girl that didn't feel protected at some point in her life. And Absolutely. Now you have this defense mechanism that is to make sure that I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me, or I'm going to show you how big and bad I am so that you know not to mess with me. And for me, it was more so coming from a place of insecurity. And I remember I was actually bullied in like elementary school by a girl that was bigger than me. And I felt like she was bullying me because I was small. I'm 5'2" as a 31-year-old. So you can imagine how small I was as a 7 or 8-year-old. And I remember thinking to myself when she was bullying me, and she was like talking down in my face and made me try to like intimidate me. And I spoke up for myself. And in the moment, I remember just being like 8 years old. And this girl had to be like 12 and like, she was like 6 feet at 12 years old for some reason. And she was like talking down on me and like trying to like, make me feel a certain way. And that feeling, I decided that I would never feel that way again.
So you became mean.
So I became that. And I was just like, well, I'm going to make sure that everybody knows not to mess with me. And I'm going to make sure that it is very clear that I will cuss you out. You know what I'm saying? and it must be, I will also hit you.
And shake this table.
For real. Like for real. I mean, high school is wild. But I feel like when I look back on it, there was a feeling that somebody, and I didn't feel that in my family at all, but I definitely had a bully kind of make me feel so small that it developed this feeling where I always wanted to make sure that nobody made me feel small like that again.
Yeah. And I can understand that too. So for me, I took an opposite approach because if anyone has ever like heard any part of my backstory, I grew up in a very cult-like situation. And so my family, we were impoverished. So our clothes didn't always smell very good. My parents, they weren't as engaged as some of the other parents were, not because they just didn't know to be. And that is what it is. But for us, a lot of the older adults, I was slapped in front of an auditorium full of people who I was in school with by a grown ass woman, like grown as fuck, like 40 plus. And I'm like 15. I was jumped on by one of the founders of the school, like jumped on, like, you know how like girls, you pounce on people like to fight them. That happened. It was just a lot, like told I would never amount to much. Like it was really, really traumatic how I grew up, like full of all the traumas. And now healing those traumas is super painful now because you have to go back to that feeling of being scared. And so I felt as though because a lot of the women in our church, they looked down on me because I decided early that I was going to do whatever the fuck I wanted to do. And that's just what it was. I didn't care. When I decided I was going to have sex before marriage, because I was like, y'all, I don't agree with what y'all talking about. And that when you are in a super religious like household you are a prostitute. You might as well be selling coochie.
Pretty
You
much.
might as well be selling it.
Pretty much.
I wasn't. I was just bold with mine. I didn't try and hide it, right?
Yeah.
I've always been it is what it is. It ain't what it ain't. You like it. You don't. You don't. Fuck you. This is what I'm doing.
Keep it moving. Right.
Yeah. And so that type of energy was not acceptable. But because I had that type of energy, a lot of the adult women, they would tell their daughters, you are not allowed to be around her. And I wasn't flaunting it. I was with one person. This was my one person. I loved him. I made him court me. For over a year before I slept with him. Like it was.
And not just that, but what were their daughters doing?
So their daughters were doing all the crazy things. It's just they weren't upfront with theirs.
Exactly. They were better at hiding it.
Yeah, and I wasn't finna hide shit. This is what it is. This is what it ain't. Like it was a very different experience. And so they were so cruel to me that I had made a promise that once I got into their position, that I would do my best to be kind, especially to the girls who were like me, who were seen as pariahs. Like I was literally seen as a pariah when I wasn't. I honestly was not a pariah at the time. I don't even think I even became a pariah because that's just not my energy. Like people, and it's crazy too, because we were talking about it earlier too, where people think because you're attractive that you automatically are mean. Because like I had nothing to do with how the genes mixed up and how I came out. Like I had nothing to do with that. My face has nothing to do with who I am as a person. But I had always promised myself.
See, that's interesting because there are people, there was a whole thing that came out about a study about how people who are attractive in society tend to be treated better and have a sense of entitlement because there is a privilege. It was called pretty privilege.
Mm-hmm. I do remember that study.
And they were talking about how there is a sense of privilege that is attached to being attractive. You don't feel like that there's some truth to that?
So I always feel it's the energy behind it, right? Because pretty is subjective.
Absolutely. Great point.
It goes back to how you feel about you. Because I may feel a young man isn't attractive at all, but he may feel like he is the bee's knees. He is the finest thing, that was created since Adam. Mm-hmm. And because of his confidence, he will get all of the people that he desires. So when I read the study, I'm like, but you're not taking into account the subjectivity of beauty.
Absolutely. Great point. Great point. I just wanted to touch on that because when you said, I was like, oh, that is a thing where people will look at, like, I've definitely had now that we're friends, I realize that you're so cool, but I definitely thought you were a bitch when I saw you.
I get it all the time.
Like, why?
It's like, you don't even know me. You haven't. The same way I am online is the same way I am offline, except for I may curse a whole hell of a lot more. Like, that's the difference. Yes. And I might go into a little more graphic detail about things that just are not appropriate for me to talk about online. Like, I'm cool as shit. Now, my face does not make me unless cool, or it doesn't make me automatically mean because, like, okay, I came out looking like this. Like, but my thing though is when it comes to mean girls. And here's the thing. I used to hate how I look. I used to think I was so ugly and unattractive. It is subjective, which is why I didn't agree completely with the study, because people say I'm gorgeous, but I did not feel that way until I'm 35 now. I know y'all black don't crack. Drink your water and mind your business. But I don't look 35, but I'm 35. I just started feeling like I was beautiful. Just period, like 10 years ago, like just 10 years ago. So all before that, I was telling myself, once I get into a position to where I had, whether it was power, whether it was access, whether it was opportunity, that I was going to make sure that I showed something different. Do I require excellence? Absolutely. If you've ever worked with me, you already know I'm on some, what are we doing? When are we doing it? What is this looking like? Like, yes, I require excellence, but it's never from a mean place. Yeah. Like, I've had teams of 20 plus, and not one of the members on the team has ever come back to say Alechia was nasty to me. I wanted that to be my story. I wanted it to be that you can see a woman in power, not a Black woman, just a woman in general in power who is also kind.
Yeah.
Where I can get the shit done and still be kind. I can close the deal and still be kind. I don't have to knock you down or make you feel like a piece of shit in order to produce or in order to achieve. So for me, I went the opposite, but it was because of how detrimental and how truly ravishing it was to my own personal self-esteem and self-image my childhood was. Like, it was, I had planned my suicide so many times as a child because I was miserable because they were so cruel.
Yeah. And it's interesting, the different things that can create that, like how the interpretation of the experience, because there are people that could have gone through what you went through and decided to become the monster. For me, I wasn't like, and when people think Mean Girls, you're thinking about like in a movie where like you're beating up like nerds, and I was like a mean girl to other mean girls. Okay. I wasn't mean to like the nerdy people. I was like in class with those people, and those were like a version of my friends. So I wasn't that kind of.
I was a nerd, and you were.
Yeah, and I was friends with those people. Like, I was in AP classes in high school, so I was friends with all these people. My meanness was more so like towards other people that were also not that nice. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, it was more of that.
We're connected, sis. I know your energy.
Yeah, it was more like that. And even now, I definitely have to be cautious, because for me, that feeling of not wanting to feel small still comes up a lot. And I don't like to feel like somebody's, like I said, sunning me. Like, that's what came up with the sorority. It was just like, oh, you're trying to make me feel like I'm not the shit. Yeah, like, you're trying to make me feel like you're better, you know, like, and that's all the things that come up. And even now, like, if somebody tries me or disrespects me, it has taken years of therapy to not respond and retaliate in the way that I want to, because it makes me feel like, I don't like that feeling of someone trying to make me feel less than. And that's where mine came from. But the maybe the good thing about that was understanding the feeling and realizing that the reason why you're trying to make me feel less than is because you feel less than.
You feel less than. That is the core of it.
That's the core.
You know what? Because and I hate to keep bringing up her name, and don't you worry, we're gonna talk about some other mean girls too. But when Karen Civil was in an attempt to defend herself, she had gone on to a Clubhouse conversation called, I think it was like Surviving Karen Civil. And she was saying that, you know, in order to protect yourself, you have to do certain things. You have to become a certain way. And my thing is it really, mean girls really are just scared women. They're just scared women.
It's a defense. It's a survival mode that you're in to try to make sure that you protect yourself. Yeah. And I mean, most women know, and you know, as I'm sure you can relate to this, we feel like as you're trying to get into different spaces and kick down doors, a lot of us, especially Black women, well, I don't even think it's a color thing. I think this is women. We don't have the blueprint and the mothers and grandmothers who were doing these things already that we can just follow suit. A lot of us are the first in our families to go to college, the first in our families to be CEOs, the first in our families to be entrepreneurs, the first in our families to try to balance it all. Like so many of us are the first that we're trying to figure it out, that we are going to fuck it up a lot. And sometimes when you're in these spaces trying to kick down doors and fight yourself into spaces, then it makes it difficult to be in a mode of femininity. It makes it very difficult to not get catty and scratchy, because it literally feels like a fight all the time. When you're trying to accomplish and you're trying to be this person. If you're working in corporate America and you're trying to, most fields are dominated by men. So in order to do anything in that field of any kind of impact, you typically have to take on masculine energy so that you could go toe to toe with these people, because they don't make it any easier because you're a woman. As a matter of fact, they make it harder because they want to try to prove a point that you don't belong here. So that same feeling a lot of times is what will bring up and stir up this meanness in women. And it is definitely a defense mechanism. I remember Amanda Seals was talking about how in Hollywood that she was somewhat kind of blacklisted for a while because she was known as difficult. And she told this story about she was on set for some, I think, commercial or something. And she said she made like a suggestion, like being like, oh, this person wouldn't really do this or wouldn't really go like that. How about we do it this way? And then it ended up becoming like, I guess, a conversation. And I believe there was other women on the set and that was like the director or in charge in some way. And they didn't say anything to her and she just got cut from the commercial. And then it was just like a thing that she was difficult and she was hard to work with. And just because she made like a suggestion or spoke up or said what her opinion was. And I think it's important sometimes for women to understand that it is okay to, especially when working with other women, it's okay to learn to collaborate with other women as opposed to it feeling like a competition. And the Beyonce song Flawless, Chimamanda Adichie says something about that, where she talks about how we're taught to be competitive with each other only when it comes to getting men. And it's like, it's this deep-seated, rooted thing within us that we take it everywhere we go. And it's like, there's no man here. Why are you fighting me? Why are you fighting me? There's no man around. But it's like rooted in us that we always have to compete with each other. We can't collaborate. And I think another woman on set felt a certain type of way about a woman speaking up. And that for me is also confusing because it's like, why don't you kind of understand where I'm coming from as another woman?
Because it's kind of like, how there are some folks, there's been lots of discussion, especially as Black economic power is now beginning to expand in ways that many folks didn't expect to see in this lifetime. There was a conversation around Black trust fund kids. And there were a lot of people who were saying, no, my kids are going to get it out the mud. And I'm just like, fuck that. Not any of mine. Every child that comes out of me, whether it's via C-section or vaginally, every child that comes out of me, why would I want them to get it out of the mud? For why? I crawled so they could sprint. No, I don't want them to get it out of the mud. Every child of mine, this first one, because she's the one who had to go through the mud with me. But for her 13th birthday, I'm buying her a multiplex because I want her to be a landlord and I want her to have at least 5 years as a landlord before she's 18.
Yeah.
She has, we have stocks for her. She has a portfolio. Like when she turns 18, I want it to be that if she never decides to go to college, she still has a fund that she can use to, okay, mommy, I want to, expand my business, because she'll absolutely have a business before she turns 18. Like, why do you want your children or people you care about or people you love to get it out the mud? Why? Because misery loves company. You feel like because you had to struggle, your kids are supposed to struggle. No, they can absolutely not do that.
Or how about even and there's a couple things here, and I'm going to be careful with what I say. How about even not just your children, but going back to like women kind of putting down other women feeling like because I had to fight my way here, then you have to fight your way here too. As opposed to being like, because I fought my way here, then you don't have to anymore. Let me help guide you along. There's this mentality that, and even if you think about the concept of in sororities where like everybody has to go through this initiation process and pledging and all the things. And it's just like, why do you feel like I need to get it? I need to go through it and it needs to be as difficult for me as it was for you. You know what I mean? And like, for me, that's a reason why I just can't call myself a feminist as a Black woman, because I don't believe that feminism is inclusive of me. It never, I mean, even if you think about the founding of where feminism started with Susan B. Anthony, and when Harriet Tubman wanted to talk, they didn't want Harriet Tubman to talk because they didn't want to dilute the women's movement with anything Black, because then that was going to distract from what they wanted. Right. So it's just like, okay, well, you want your movement, then y'all need to figure that movement out over there away from us, because you're not about to make my movement harder, or you're not about to kind of, eclipse me and dim my light, because people feel like, oh, if I help somebody else, and for some reason I'm hurting myself, which I just don't understand. There's definitely a lack of abundance mindset. But then Harriet Tubman had to come through, and that's where the famous poem, Ain't I a Woman, came from. Because it was just like, they didn't even see her as a woman. They just saw her as a Black being that wasn't worthy of the same movement and rights that they were going to get. And that happens on so many levels, where it's this concept of, I can't help you because helping you hurts me.
Yeah. And it's that too, is that whole thing where and I understand what it needed to be back in the day, or what you felt it had to be. And number one, there was no social media, so you couldn't just record something and now the whole world knows about it. It took weeks to get mail. Like, it was a different time. So I do understand where the whole, back then they felt that there was, a slice of pie that we all had to fight over.
Right.
At this stage in the game, I'm sorry, not sorry. There is an entire pie that is ever expanding.
Yes.
There isn't and I was talking to a girlfriend the other day, and her daughter is overweight. And she was having the discussion with her daughter saying, you want to be an actress, but it's going to be harder for you because you are so overweight. And I didn't say anything at the time, but what I wanted to say is figure another way to teach her that health is something she should focus on, instead of telling her that she won't be able to get opportunities because of who she is and how she looks.
Because that makes her feel like she's not good enough.
Exactly. And then what that then does too is it makes you feel as though because she used an example, there's only one Lizzo. And I was like, but you don't want to teach it that way, because then you teach her that there is not an abundant source of opportunities.
Absolutely.
And the thing about Mean Girls is they are fixated on the fact that there is not enough. So if I give you some, I'm going to lose. When the fact of the matter is abundance is a very real thing.
Absolutely.
It is ever expanding. Opportunities are ever expanding. That's also too why I will absolutely introduce someone who's in my same industry to an opportunity. Because maybe it's not my opportunity. Maybe it's yours. I will teach you and give you the step-by-step to how I did things. Because again, and I posted it a while ago, you can buy the same ingredients to your favorite smoothie, make it, and it tastes nothing like what it tastes like from the place that you buy it.
Absolutely. Oh my God, that happens to me way too often. You're absolutely right.
And I get really upset. Like, why doesn't it taste the same?
What do they do? Yeah, that's such a good point, because it's one of those things where that lack of abundance mindset, and it definitely comes from a survival place, a place of survival where you feel like, oh, I have to hang on to my little bit, because so many people come from a place of lack.
Take it.
And then, I can't share with you because that means I don't have enough. And when abundance is something where the more you give is actually the more you get. And that is literally a law of the universe.
It's that karmic law.
Yeah. It's a fact. Like, that is how it works. And a lot of us don't know that. We weren't raised with that mentality. And I think it's something that definitely needs to kind of be reframed, where you understand that the more you help, the more you give things away, the more that you're in service to people, is the more all the things that you want are attracted to you, because you're saying, hey, I'm gonna give it away because I know I'm gonna get it. You're showing that you trust in your abilities, you trust in your highest self, you trust in a higher power to constantly replenish you, as opposed to thinking that, oh, I got to hang on to this, because you're sending a message that you think that there's nothing else out there for you. So you're trying to keep from everybody else, but what you're really doing is keeping from yourself, because you're sending a message that you don't think that you can handle more.
Listen,
that's the whole problem.
We can drop the mic right now. That was so damn good.
For real, but it's like, and I had to learn that. I mean, my meanness was never like I want, let me take from myself. It was just let me let you know not to play with me. And I think a lot of it also, just kind of switching gears a little bit, came from this idea that being mean is kind of cool. I don't know if you could kind of, if that makes sense, like, especially within the last decade or so of reality shows where you have your, quote unquote mean girls, and not saying that I necessarily think they're mean, but in a like in society and in pop culture, they are mean. Your Jocelyn Hernandez, your Nene Leakes, your Naomi Campbell, your Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, like all of those women, it's like they've somewhat created careers around being mean to other women, throwing drinks, and the Love and Hip Hop brand, and all these women have literally
What's that girl,
from
what's
being
her name? Who was throwing drinks, and she would always throw drinks, and then she incited the fight and then wanted to cry later. What was her name? Used to be married to Ocho Cinco.
Evelyn Lozada.
That broke my heart. And here's the thing. I am a domestic violence victim turned driver. So I do not advocate for men hitting women, period, hard stop.
Yeah.
And I also do not advocate for women hitting men, because that is a real thing, and it happens. Keep your hands, keep your feet, keep your glasses, because you could kill someone by throwing a glass at them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if it breaks and you cut, if you cut a certain part of
the major artery, anything, you don't know what kind of health you have.
You don't know. You can take someone's life because you have no self-control. Ooh. And for me, I feel as though
that part, that was deep.
Listen,
that hit me deep. That was
because the thing is what you don't understand is you having a lack of self-control can literally cause someone to lose their life because you haven't healed the pieces and parts of yourself that feel powerless. Oof. End of the day, hard stop. You can literally change the entire trajectory of someone's life because you have not learned how to self-regulate. You have not learned how to self-regulate.
So true.
If you can figure out how to acknowledge this has happened, this has hurt me, I did not agree with this, I do not like how this went down, but it does not mean that I have to take that same energy that was given to me and throw it back out, because everything that I put out into the universe eventually will come back to me.
Yep.
Me being a catalyst for hurt and for pain is not who I want to be and show up as in the world.
Absolutely.
It's just
that's
not.
So powerful. Yeah, that's a powerful thing. And it's one of those things where, again, going back to you saying that a lot of these mean girls are women who are hurt, they're scared, they're feeling like they need to be defensive. A lot of times when I think on Housewives, you can kind of see, because you see more, with Naomi Campbell, you're just hearing about an incident, like she's throwing cell phones at her staff and stuff like that. And she's pretty unapologetic about it when she does get confronted about it. And, I could definitely see that she was maybe she's someone that is making a blueprint. She's someone that had to kick and scrape and fight to get to where she is. Yeah. She is, you know what I'm saying? So I can only imagine what she had to go through to get to where she is today, and not to excuse any of that behavior, but just trying to understand it in a sense. And then also when you so on reality TV, you can kind of see the personalities flesh out a little bit more. And you can, you get backstories of their childhood and the things that they've been through and bad relationships. And you can kind of see why this personality is what is there. And I also think that reality TV is literally like, it's like a place that grooms and promotes that because it's entertaining for other people. So that's why I was saying, I used to feel like, me being like that was kind of like, it made me like more interesting and it made me cool and it made me kind of like, don't mess with me. But like, I felt like people have this idea that if someone is mean, it's because they're confident or it's because they're bosses and that I think it gets misconstrued, especially with the rise of housewives and reality TV women kind of taking over and becoming the most popular person from that brand. Like Nene Leakes is literally the most popular person from Housewives, and she has been not that nice to a lot of her castmates. And yet she's the one that people seem to admire the most or love to hate and things like that. Then I really would be happy if I get that it's entertaining, but I definitely think that it has done a lot more damage than good to see women constantly at each other's throat, especially Black women. And it becomes,
but not just us, because Beverly Hills, New Jersey, NY, Utah.
yeah, but I feel like to me, sometimes they can be even worse than like Atlanta and Potomac and things like that. But just because we just have so much work to do within our own community, we can't really afford some of those things. And I know like people don't really like to hear that, but I mean, and I feel like that about a lot of things that happen publicly, but there are some things that we just cannot afford because we're still a work in progress, and so are they. But I'm just saying, as a community, a lot of times we cannot afford some of the backlash and some of the depictions of ourselves that we're trying to undo. You know, we're trying to undo so much. We can't keep doing things that sets us back. And I definitely had to kind of catch myself and make sure that if I was being stern, if I was being firm, if I was speaking up for myself, that my heart and my intentions were pure and that I was never trying to put anyone down, because it's also important not to lose yourself and lose your voice in an effort to be kind.
Ooh, girl, listen, now you just said a whole mouthful there, and I'm going to dissect to the first thing. So when Beyonce decided that she was going to lead her brand and no longer her father, she said people used to walk all over her because she was too nice.
Yep. Happens all the time.
She was too nice. And so she said she had to figure out what her mix was. And so she said she decided she was going to be fair. She was going to be fair. And her deciding to be fair was still standing up for herself. It was still showing up for herself. And because she was fair, you can't debate a person as long as they're fair. Like, this is just what it is, but I'm fair to you. There's some kindness in there, because I feel as though in order to be fair, there does have to be some level of kindness, because if I'm ensuring that I pay you correctly, like you never hear stories around, you know, Beyonce not paying folks, because she has said it herself. And I have friends who work with her, work currently and have worked past tense with her, and they all have the same story. Super kind, stern, because it's a Virgo. Virgo women are, I love them. They're the salt of the earth for me. I love their work ethic, but very fair. I'm going to show up in excellence. I'm going to expect excellence, but I'm going to be fair to you.
Yep.
So there is a way you can do it. And hell, just like you had to blaze trails to be the first to do this or do that, you can also blaze trails being the first to show what does it look like to, make hundreds of millions of dollars, to sit at the highest, levels in whatever your industry is, and to also be kind.
Yeah.
Like Carla Harris was one for me, to where she didn't know me from Adam, Eve, Melissa, or Janessa. And she literally has one of the highest ranking positions on Wall Street. And I asked her for an interview, my little blog at the time. The level of kindness and time that she took with me to just sit and talk to me and answer my questions. Like, this woman has been over billions of dollars. Like, she can pick up the phone and raise 50 million in 10 minutes. And she gave someone, and I'm not putting myself in a lowly position, but in terms of the things she's accomplished and the things I've accomplished, she's the GOAT, and I aspire.
She says she's the GOAT.
And I aspire to it.
Yeah.
And every time I see her, since the first time I met her and she gave me that interview, it's always been love and kindness. And you can she exudes it.
That's amazing. That's so necessary among women. It's just like, let's change the narrative.
Yes,
yeah, it doesn't have to be like that. Yeah, because men are not like that really with each other. And if they are like that with each other, it's definitely a lot more acceptable. Like when you mentioned Beyonce being fair, like there are a lot of powerful men that proclaim themselves to be fair, and that's admirable. But when women are fair, we're bitches, we're mean, we're just people that nobody wants to deal with, we're difficult and all those things. And it's like when men are like that, they're assertive, they're strong, they're confident, they're outspoken. It's like all those things are so appreciated when it comes to men. But for women, it's like, it's something that leaves a bad taste in most people's mouth. Like both of us are very outspoken women, and it's going to be very easy to interact with us and think that we're mean or we're bitches or something like that. And, over the years, I've even found myself, and that's why I said that statement about not losing yourself in an effort to be kind, because I've done that. I've silenced myself in relationships, in workplaces, because I didn't want to be mean anymore. I was at one extreme that I went to this other extreme of being like this timid little mouse. But because that's not who I am, it made me miserable.
And you get angry. Yes. You see, I know exactly where you're coming from, because I too got so angry because I was denying how I really felt.
Yes,
and
all the time.
Stu says it all the time. He's like, you overcorrect. Like, you're overcorrecting. I need you to come back. You didn't have to, do the long jump. It only needed a little hop.
You go out of your way to be nice. Go out of your way to show how nice you are. Like, I remember there was like this period of time where like I really enjoy, just to kind of give you context, I really enjoy putting myself together. I love hair. I love makeup. I love fashion. I love all the things. My nails are always done. I'm just that person, right? It has nothing to do with anybody but me. It's just, if I look good, I feel good. It's a very personal thing. I do understand, though, that there are people who might admire that. They might aspire to that. They may think that it's a way that they would like to be, and they will get drawn to me. That is one reason I believe that people can be drawn to me. And then, of course, my energy and other things like that. But I remember myself at one period of time, like if someone looked at me, I would make sure that I smiled because I wanted them to not think I was a bitch. It didn't matter who it was, no matter where I was. I was just like, oh, she's looking at me. Let me smile and like let her know that like I'm approachable.
Like, but why is that my responsibility? Like, that's not my responsibility.
And I was just like, I'm not responsible for how you perceive me. Like, that has nothing to do with me. That is on you. If you think I'm all that, or you think I think I'm all that, it's because you think I'm all that. And thanks. But that's not my responsibility. I'm not responsible for how you feel about me when you haven't even interacted with me yet. I mean, so I'm just saying, you just have to go through the motions. If you're trying to reform, you're trying to be better. And I'm talking to anybody that struggles with meanness. Like Gabrielle Union was so open with her Essence speech a few years ago about how mean she really was. And she talks about it in her book and how she would like rip women apart with her words. And like you and I, Alicia, Gabrielle Union is very witty and savvy. And it can be very easy for women that are quick-witted to be mean. And she spoke about it, and it resonated so deeply with me because I could also see the work she was doing to move past it. And also understanding that it is a never-ending work that you have to do. Because even in this conversation that we were talking, I had moments that I had to just like reel it in and muzzle myself because it is so much easier for me to be like that. And I think for anyone that is on a journey to better themselves and not be mean and not be shady and not be petty and all the things that are glorified in this society, it's just remembering that, one, you have a power to uplift someone. Why would you choose to tear them down when you can literally change? And you were talking about changing the trajectory of someone's life without having self-control. You can also change the trajectory of someone's life with kindness and with uplifting them. And you can be the person that makes them not commit suicide that day because you complimented them, because you spoke life into them. So speak life into the people around you, whether you know them or not, because that is so much more impactful. And that just sends a better message to the overall collective that we need right now, as opposed to using your powerful words, because they're powerful either way, to tear people down and to make people feel less than, because that is a ripple effect that always is going to come back to you anyways. You know what I mean? So it's like in an effort sometimes to hoist ourselves above people, we tear other people down, not realizing that eventually we are tearing ourselves down in different ways. So I just want to encourage anyone that does have that struggle, since it is something that I constantly am working on. I just always remember that before I say something mean, what can I say nicer? How can I reframe it? How can I position it in a way that the person can really receive it? If I claim that I'm trying to help them with my words, or I'm trying to keep it real, which is another thing. This whole, I'm keeping it real. No, you're keeping it mean as hell. You're keeping it rude. You can keep it real and also give and package it in a way that the person can receive your gift. But you can't give me a gift because you think it's a gift and I should just receive it because you wanted to give it to me. That's not That's not how it works. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of us feel like that. Well, I told you what it was, girl. I already gave you the advice. I told you. And it's just like, but I didn't receive it that way because that didn't feel like a gift. That felt like an attack.
Yes. Oh, listen. And we're gonna close down because we can definitely talk about this all day. But it's ask yourself, what's the energy behind it?
Yes.
Like, what's the heart behind it? What's the spirit behind it?
Yeah.
There is and Danny, I know you're gonna laugh at me, but there is a scripture that says, man.
Here she go quoting the Bible.
Listen, I can't help it.
Going ahead and become an evangelist and call it
absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's that man looks at what you do. So like for the empowerment, women who like, oh my God, they have this empowerment platform and they want to be connected and apart and all the things. Man looks at what you do, but God looks at the heart.
Yep.
And so if let's say you don't believe in God, totally fine. Whatever you believe in, look at the heart behind it. Like, what's the intention behind it? Is your intent to hurt them, to make them feel less than, to show them that you are powerful and you have this position
that's
and
a good one.
Break them down and you are the one, you're the reason they are successful and you made them who they are? Come back, sweetie. Sis, madam,
that's so good. What you just said about like people doing women's empowerment just to show that they are more powerful and just to kind of like show their peacock feathers. That's so good. I didn't even really put that together, but that's such a big part of it. And I can definitely see that as being a part of, it's like this, there's this narrative. And I want to say, unfortunately, within the Black community that I'm going to get so I can shit on people. I'm gonna get this car so I can show people. I'm gonna show people that I came up. I'm gonna show people that I have this and I have that. And the mentality is not, oh, let me get this so that I can help others get it. So, sometimes it doesn't seem like that feels like the intention. Sometimes the intention feels like, let me bring you closer. You can see how amazing I am. And I'm gonna be able to keep you at bay and keep you down. And that is just so crazy. Yeah,
it's all rooted in insecurity. It's all rooted in hurt and trauma. And you want to show people, like you want to prove to people. Like I remember when I first went to college, there was a teacher who, because I had decided to dual enroll, this was the reasoning, because I had decided to dual enroll in high school, I decided to take college courses because I wanted to ensure that I was prepared once I got to college. He was just like, the way you make decisions, the way you do things. Because again, I wasn't about the bullshit. I wasn't finna fake like I was doing something that I wasn't.
Yeah.
So I told them that I had made the decision that I was going to spend a half a day in school at the high school. And I was going to spend the other half at the college because there were some things that I needed to learn that I felt high school could no longer teach me.
Yeah.
And his response to me deciding to dual enroll in college and do well was that I wouldn't amount to much in life because I didn't know how to follow the rules and I didn't know how to listen.
Okay.
Now, how you get that from what I did is beyond me, but it is feeling as though you have to prove to someone that they are the gatekeepers. Because what his issue was, I didn't ask him before I made the decision.
Right.
So that whole, let me prove to you, I'm the gatekeeper.
Yes.
You can't do this
without me.
Without me. And so in the beginning, mine was, I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove to you, I am going to go off to college. I'm going to do really, really well. I'm going to make a lot of money. And then I'm going to come back and show you with my Gucci shoes or my Chanel bag. And I'm going to show you that not only did I make a good choice, but your words don't mean shit. That was literally the energy, right? And eventually, when I started to do my own healing, I had to check myself and say he was coming from a hurt place. Yeah. He too, even though he was a man, and he was a very mean man too. Ooh, he was mean. I think there might have been a lot of feminine energy up in there.
We could do a whole episode on mean men.
Listen, he was such a mean, nasty man. But for me, it eventually, when I started doing my own healing, you start to give people a lot more grace when you start to work through your own shit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure.
Because you bring it back to the fact that they were doing the best they could with the tools they had at the time.
Absolutely.
And no, the tools were not effective, but they were doing the best they could. It was all they had at the time.
So true. So true.
And so eventually the whole, with especially Black folks who are just coming into money or just getting something, the whole, I'm going to show you. For me, the biggest flex is when you don't have to.
Oh, hello. Because it shouldn't be about it, but like it just shouldn't be about that. So I know we're way over time, but this was just such an important conversation for us to have. And I just, in closing, just whenever you do see these things on Instagram about conferences and all the things when it comes to this woman empowerment, trust your intuition and really feel out what the energy is behind it. What are you really going to get out of attending? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's really happening here? How are you really going to benefit? Is it really worth your time? Is it really worth your money? Not bashing them, because I truly believe that there are people that have great intentions and are doing great work in that arena and are really, really lifting women up. And are really have a heart for women and to see women win. And so I would just do your research, you know what I mean? Make sure that the people that you're investing in are really going to invest back into you in the way that they claim to do so, and that you don't feel like you're just so anytime. And my thing, whenever I'm even in my own coaching, I always tell my clients that I don't want you to feel like you have to depend on me. I want to talk to you in a year and you're further along. I don't want you to feel like, oh, let me go back and let me do this 100 more times because I feel like I can't eat right or I can't do this without you. Anyone that makes you feel like you have to depend on them is not empowering you. They're crippling you, and they're making sure that they can constantly take from you as much as you'll allow them to. So always feel like after I'm done with this, will I be able to go off on my own and use what they gave me to make myself better? If you can't answer yes to that question, then you're not being empowered.
And on that note, I thank you guys so much for joining us on this first episode of Triggered AF, the podcast. This was a good one. And the reason we wanted to start with the Mean Girl movement is because as we truly are working through and healing our triggers, and we are take notes, sis, you check the merch for that one. But as we are, taking notes, we are identifying what triggers us, and then we are creating new routes, right? We're creating new patterns. We are deciding that this way that I used to respond, I'm not responding like this anymore.
Absolutely.
As we are doing this healing, you also have to honor and recognize, hey, maybe I am a mean girl. Maybe I do lead in a way that ensures that I don't lose my sense of power. If so, that's okay. We're not bashing the mean girls, but what we are saying is it is high time that we all make changes that push all of us forward.
Oh, I love it. That was such a great way of saying that. Absolutely. And on that note, that is perfect, Alechia. And I love that you just said that, because I never want anyone to feel like, oh, we're saying that you're wrong or you're bad or you're evil or you're mean. It's not about that. It's just saying that if you are exhibiting that behavior, there's something deeper, and you probably need to try to figure that out so that you can heal from that and be the best version of yourself. Because as someone that struggles with that, I can guarantee you that I don't ever feel my best when I'm being mean. Ever. Never feel good after. It feels really good during, but it doesn't feel good after. And that's how I know that. I know so many people can relate to that when they feel, and we go back to that self-control, and we could go on and on. But thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. You can follow Alechia on Instagram at Alechia Reese. And I think it's the same on Facebook, right, Lee?
It's everywhere.
Everywhere. It's at Alechia Reese. I'm on Instagram at Danny Foster Coaching. On Facebook, it's just Danny Foster. Please go to our Triggered AFPC Instagram page. Go to triggeredafpodcast.com. Do all the things to keep up with us, where we post and talk about the show. And you guys can just, of course, we want to take this journey with you. So get to know us better and better as we keep going through these seasons and episodes. It's amazing to really get to meet so many wonderful people that listen to our show. show. And keep an eye out for all the merch we have coming and all the things we have going on that you guys have allowed us to do and you've supported us to be able to do. And we will see you next time.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Triggered AF. Remember, don't be consumed by your triggers. Confront it and then work to release it. Whether you leave us more triggered than you came or you're feeling like you've been open to a new perspective, our hope is that you've grown. Make sure to share this episode with a friend who's trigger happy and tag us while you're listening. We can't wait to hear from you. Until next week, pull it together, girl.